All right, let's get started. My name is Karthik Duraisamy. I'm a faculty member at the University of Michigan. I also direct MICDE, which is our Computational Science Institute. And welcome to the summer school. So a couple of words about the summer school. So it runs for 3 weeks, and it's run in collaboration with the Oregon National Laboratory and Los Alamos National Laboratory. Okay, let's get started. I just wanted to give a couple of minutes of context and history to how we got here. So shown here is on the left is a special issue of the MICD magazine, which summarizes the conference on scientific foundation models, which we had here in Ann Arbor on April 2nd and 3rd. We had about 300 plus participants. It was a good success. So there were some discussions there about follow-on activities. And there was another Department of Energy University partnership meeting in DC in March. And the same theme came up, right? So how can we get started in this emerging field? How can we build an ecosystem? How can we also, develop skills that are needed to move towards the goals that we're going to be talking about today? So one of the things that emerged was we should have, follow-on versions of this conference. So there will be a SciFM24 next year. And there was also a lot of interest to create, some type of a summer school and hackathon. And this is the first such instance. There's already some interest from a number of people outside of Michigan to hold future versions of this summer school, right? So stay tuned. Again, this is just a quick snapshot of the conference summary. So you can download this on micd.umich.edu. So there's a crisp summary of the various talks. And since this is really a field that did not exist last year, things are moving fast, and journals don't quite capture what is going on. So I believe for the next year or two, these kinds of meetings and conferences and hackathons is where most of the action is going to be. And that's one of the reasons why we're having this here. Okay, quick word on the logistics. So the first week of the summer school, so the next speaker, Venkat, he's going to be going through the agenda and goals in detail. So this is just high level here. But the first week is mostly talks and tutorials, and most of the talks and most of the participants are going to be remote in the first week. And if you're already here, the Zoom link. And those who are already in Ann Arbor, today we're going to be having the physical part of the meeting in McDavid Conference Room, which is in North Campus. And the next 4 days are going to be in Central Campus, the Physics Colloquium Room. And they're also at the University of Chicago and Oregon, there are also separate physical gatherings as well. So the next couple of weeks, we're going to be focusing on a hackathon. So this is invite only just because we wanted to get going on specific topics. Incidentally, we've reserved a couple of villas out here in Ann Arbor, so people can just come and hack. So that's going to be pretty exciting. But if you do intend to, if you're not part of a team and you want to participate and you have some experience in this or related topics, please send a one-page write-up to MICD contact. And do follow us on LinkedIn if there may be a few updates that you can follow. All right, quick word. There are about 150, I would say 160, because many of us have not registered. People that are participating one way or the other here, and about a quarter of those in person. And the hackathon portion involves getting foundation models off the ground in these 4 areas. And it looks like PDEs and computational science have the largest core here. and Venkat's going to talk a bit more about the hackathon, so skipping that part. So I just maybe have one or a couple of quick slides before handing it off. So again, scientific foundation models effectively refer to creation of a foundational layer, right, that can be used for various downstream tasks, right? So for instance, you can extract, synthesize, and summarize knowledge from diverse sources, right? So that's like a downstream task. You can have planning, agency, and potentially autonomous discoveries. You can use foundation models for to generate new hypotheses and drive ideation. And the thing that I'm most excited about is, I think for the first time in the history of science, we may have a framework where a very large number of scientists, imagine 1,000 scientists, right, collaborating and contributing to one platform, right, that is completely digitized. So I have maybe one slide following this up. So this is, to me, extremely exciting. And our keynote speaker, who's going to talk in about 15 minutes, is going to talk about, some of the initial steps towards that kind of a foundation model. The other thing I want to emphasize is even if you ignore scientific part of the foundation models and you talk about foundation models and large language models, there is this narrative around AGI, artificial general intelligence, and how these things can, replace this or that. But I feel certainly over the next 10 years and maybe even beyond, the biggest way in which these tools can impact science or even broader topics is by being very powerful assistants. But at least over the next decade or so, for these assistants to be leveraged productively and properly, we need quite a bit of expertise on how to use them, right? I do not think they'll be very powerful assistants if the user does not have the right type of background, at least in the near future. At least that's my thought. All right, it's probably my last slide here. And this was my earlier point about collaborative science, right? So this is no different. I mean, there are various steps involved in creating scientific foundation models. Of course, data is important. Data curation, how do you generate it? What is the quality of the data? So that's a big step. Then there is the pre-training. And this data curation and generation, this can be done by, I don't know, hundreds of groups or thousands of groups. It also involves taking existing data, existing resources, and curating them. And then there is the most expensive step of pre-training. So unfortunately, I don't think there is going to be any way around it, at least in the next decade or so. So this is the most expensive step. This can be done only by users who have very large compute. And if you take something like GPT-4, this step takes about 99% of the cost. And this takes this may take hundreds of thousands of GPUs in the future for the kind of things we are envisioning. But the somewhat good news is the pre-trained models by themselves are not as important and are dependent on fine-tuning, right? And this step can be done piecemeal and can be done with a small number of resources in a place where the community can contribute. Of course, then you have to probe the models. You want to, have some kind of feedback loop on how to improve the data quality and quantity. And then there's obviously adaptation to downstream tasks. It's also problem formulation methods and frameworks, and so many different ways in which the scientific community can come together and contribute, right? So that's the vision. And over the next week, we're going to be seeing progress along these directions, talks and tutorials that are going to cover what's been happening and what people have been thinking about. And then the next couple of weeks is going to be seeing, what we can hack. All right. With that, I'm going to hand it over. You're already logged on to Venkat Viswanathan, who